ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. I thank everyone for joining today's session and a special welcome to the new members. As we all know, today's topic for discussion is what is the aim of life. It is quite interesting and a relevant topic that everyone must look for in his or her life. So let me take you through the reason why I chose this topic, and probably when you meet people, sometimes you also might have observed the same thing. So a couple of months back, I happened to meet a lady, and I was just having a discussion with her and trying to understand what is her purpose of life. So she was in her mid-40s, and she basically was not very clear on what is her purpose of life. And she mentioned to me that she never really thought about it. So she has already spent more than half of her life, but she never really thought about what is the purpose of her life. So that was one of the missing link, which was quite surprising to me. And like this, we see a lot of people in the society who live their life to the fullest. But if you really ask them this question, then they probably might not have ever done a analysis, or they might not have really thought about this question about why do they really exist in this world, what is the aim of their life, and what they should be really heading to. So this is one of the biggest disconnect that I observe in society at times when I interact with different set of people. And in spite of the fact that at times people are quite well educated, people are from well professional background, or they have good number of achievements in their life, good family background, everything is there, but probably the concept of really thinking on what is the aim of life is missing at times. So most of the time people are simply going with the flow, and that made me to really work on this topic, and then present it at the appropriate time, and share what should be uh, uh, what should be the aim of life for any person who thinks rationally, who thinks with deep core values of life. Yes, this is something this is something that I observe as a logical and a rational purpose of life, which I should adopt in my life too. So let's get into the discussion, the topics that we will be covering for today. So today's agenda will be discussing with a beginning when we will be picking up the theme with an interesting note of Srila Prabhupada, his interview with a TV reporter. Then we will be talking about the current focus of the society. What is the focus of the society? Not really consciously thinking on what is the aim of life, but still they have some focus, they are doing certain things. And then we'll be talking about what the outcome of that focus is ultimately. Third is the nature of material world. We all live in this material world, and whatever we can see from our eyes, it is nothing but a manifestation of material world. Then we'll be talking about a need from a spiritual perspective. What should be the focus, or what should be the aim of life, and what are the key essential elements that that can be covered if we keep the aim of life dominant from a more spiritual perspective. Then we'll be talking about three core principles or essentials of happiness from one of the Scottish writer who has given a analysis on what are the key principles of happiness. and then we'll be discussing a few practical aspects on how we can, live a life based on a aim that we'll be just picking up, and then final concluding remarks to, as a cover note or as a key takeaway for all of us, which we can really implement in our day-to-day lifestyle. So let's begin. A beginning, as I mentioned. So Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of Hare Krishna movement. Srila Prabhupada, when he was founding this Hare Krishna movement, he used to be interviewed by different TV, different set of reporters, different magazines, and during one interview, Srila Prabhupada was being asked a question that what is the meaning of life? What do you think as the meaning of life? And you can rephrase this question as, why do we really exist in this world, or what is the aim of life? So the same question on like aim of life, or why do we exist, or a meaning of life, it's all kind of related question. So Srila Prabhupada gave a very interesting answer, and which every one of us really hanker for. So Srila Prabhupada said that we all exist in this material world to enjoy. So our propensity is, we all want to enjoy. We all want to be in ananda. We all want to be full in full bliss. It's our natural state of consciousness, because we are originated from God, and God is full of ananda, and we also want to be always in ananda. So when we do a further deep dive analysis on this particular aspect of the aim of life, if you look at the smallest of the living creature in this world, let's say from ant to maybe elephant or a whale, every living creature in this world exists because they ultimately want to, they want to enjoy. This is their natural propensity to enjoy. The only difference is that the mechanism for enjoyment could be different for different species. So like for instance, let's take an example of hog. Hog likes to enjoy stool, and if we look at it from on a human platform, when we see that hog is too much busy or too much interested to enjoy stool, for us it looks very abominable, or we feel it's very degraded condition of life when we look at hog, that he is enjoying stool. So that is the focus of enjoyment for a hog. So like this, different species have different level of enjoyment, or they try to pursue happiness or pleasure at different platforms. So this was quite interesting reply that Srila Prabhupada gave on what the aim of life is. So now let us look further what is going on in the modern society. What is the focus of the modern society when it comes to their hankering for the same aim of life or enjoyment? So how they derive all these enjoyments. So first, so one thing we need to understand when we look at the society, the aim of the society, when people work, like from the day when we start getting into the schools, we are having either by our own self, or maybe from our parents or from the society, we have an aim that we want to be a topper in the school. That is although considered as aim, but if you really do a deep dive study, then it is not really aim of life. It is one of your short-term accomplishment. Okay, so same next level, once you are a topper in the school, Then after being a topper in the school, what you want next? You want to get admitted to you want to have admission in one of the best college. So this is the next level of, your accomplishment moved from one tangent to another. And then after you pass the college nicely, then probably you want to do some higher study, and then after that you want to either get a good job or you want to start your own business. So so all these criteria from material angle, whatever we accomplish from short term perspective, all these really cannot be put into the category of aim of life, because aim of life is something which remains stable throughout the life. The mechanism to achieve them, or the way of achieving those aims at different ventures of our life can be different, but aim remains one. So let us never try to make club them together, the short term accomplishments and the aim of your life. Let's not club them together. Now comes another interesting part. When it comes to doing our regular day-to-day duties, when we perform our day-to-day duties, the duties could be in terms of managing our family. Duties could be in terms of taking care of our parents. Duties could be in terms of our dealings within the society, or earning for family. All these falls within the category of duties. So these are the duties, but these duties are again not we cannot put them under the category of aim of life. They may give, these are some necessities of life, but necessity cannot be aim of life. It is required, but it is not the aim of life. We have certain responsibilities to fulfill. We must fulfill those responsibilities, but it should not be the core agenda of life. So when we try to achieve these material accomplishments, whatever it could be, be at the top in the corporate career, or have a social recognition, whatever it is, ultimately it basically creates a problem which is known as pavarg. Pavarg. So in our Hindi, we have different words. So there is one word known as pavarg. Within pavarg, there are total 5 words which start from pa. So pa, fa, ba, bha, and ma. We all must have heard it when we were when we were kids. So we all can just recall that. Pa, fa, ba, bha, ma. So pa stands for parishram. Parishram means, we all do hard labor, hard effort, which is called as struggle for existence. We all live in this world, and we all have to do a hard struggle for existence. So it is categorized as parishram. You do a lot of hard labor. If you want to be at the top ladder in the corporate career, you have to do hard labor to be on the top of it. Then fa stands for fan. Fan means, in Hindi it is like jhag. So we can take an example of a horse here. When we give too much trouble to horse by engaging him too much difficult activities, then the horse leaves the water from his mouth. So similarly, when we do too much hard labor, then sometimes water comes from our mouth. So fa for fan. So similarly, it's for us, like sometimes water comes out of our mouth. So it is basically the outcome of the hard labor that we do. And then the third, so pa, fa is for fan, and then third one is ba. Ba stands for bandhan. Bandhan means bondage into this material world. So whatever we do for ourselves or for our just family, ultimately it creates a bondage for us in this world. That is called as ba. And then fourth one is bha. Bha. Bha stands for fear. Ultimately, whatever accomplishments we get in this world, let us say we reached at a top in the corporate career, then we have to save that position. So we have a fear that somebody can take that position from us. This is one fear that we all live with. Or if we get a certain prestige in the society, then we have a fear that our prestige might get lost, or somebody else may come up and somebody else can dominate the prestige that we were having before. Or if we are very, very beautiful, like we maintain a strong body, and then by maintaining strong body, we eventually may have fear that, oh, I may lose this body, the beauty or the charm of my body after some year. So any beautiful lady in this world, as the age progresses, her beauty, starts fading down. And when the beauty starts fading down, it's also a kind of fear that starts troubling her mind. And it is natural, nobody can stop it. You may be beautiful for the age up to 35 years, 40 years, 45 years, 50 years, but ultimately your body is going to die. So pa, fa, ba, bha, and the last one is ma. So when everything is done within this material world, the last thing that comes to your door is your death. So that stands for M. M means mrityu. So this is called as power. So whatever we try to pursue within this material world, it ultimately leads to getting us stuck into this power. So the short-term accomplishment which we want ultimately puts us into this power. This is a disconnect in our modern society or the world that we live in today. The next one is now we will be talking about 3 different levels of consciousness. So people who live in this, generally people who are only focused for living within material pursuits, which most of the people are at present, their consciousness can be categorized into 3 different areas or 3 different segments. There are total 5 levels of consciousness as per Taittiriya Upanishad. So out of those 5 levels of consciousness, 3 levels of consciousness are covered under this the current focus of the society, and then 2 levels of consciousness we'll be talking about later on. So the first level of consciousness, as you can see, is Annamaya consciousness. So Annamaya consciousness is a consciousness when our first level is that we want food to survive. Food is an essential necessity for us. No matter whatever we may have, whatever technology we may have at our disposal, at the end of the day, our first requirement is food. Are we getting food or not? So we strive for getting food. Or you can put it like economic development. We want some. So ultimately it comes under the category of economic development. This is called as Annamaya consciousness. It is coming from this term Anna. We're always thinking about food. Let's have food for us. Let's have food for our family. That is our first level of focus. Then once we are settled with the requirements of food, then the next level comes into the picture, and the next level is Pranamaya. We got the food, fine. Now next is we need to have a safety or security, or you can say protection. We have this body, we are giving regular food to the body for nourishment, but now this body needs some sort of protection from external calamities or external dangers or other external natural challenges, or maybe some human who can just interfere in our life and just may kill us. So we want to protect ourselves, and sometimes people want protection in the form of they try to start saving their money, their wealth. So because money is one of the biggest component considered as, okay, if we have a good savings, then we are secured. So they will start putting a lot of money into the banks. So this is called as pranamaya consciousness, or the tendency to defend. So it's not that we are like just kind of fighting with the different kinds of shastra, but we are trying to actually defend ourselves via different mechanism by which we can survive easily in the difficult time, and we can save ourselves, we can save our family. This is the second level of consciousness. So once we go up from second level of consciousness, then the third level of consciousness that comes into the picture, which is called as manomaya consciousness. Now this manomaya consciousness is a consciousness when we work on a mental platform. Mental platform means we start doing speculation, we start having some philosophical contemplation. It's like doing our own independent uh, analysis of things, our own independent brainstorming, maybe about our life, maybe about our surroundings, maybe within our own family, what is going on. So we are now moving from a more gross platform to a subtle platform. So initially we were just thinking about our body, which is the grossest of the gross. Then we moved from the body to the mind, which is little more subtle than your body, because mind is something that we cannot see, and gross is a matter which we can see. So anna and prana is essentially falling into the category of gross. Then manomaya is falling into the category of a subtle platform. So in the earlier stages, people are not really thinking about life. People are thinking about their own protection. People are thinking about how to get food. That's all. Food and protection is their focus. But when we move from that two levels of consciousness, manomaya, we start contemplating. Okay, let us see. Can it be like this? Can it be like this? So some thinking man, it is coming from man. So the mind has started functioning to think beyond anna and prana maya level of consciousness. So if we look at the current focus of the society, then the current focus is predominantly falling into these three different segments. When we have short-term accomplishments, we keep on moving from one level of accomplishment to another level of accomplishment as the time progresses. Then ultimately we get a result of whatever we accomplish, and then finally it all works with the mechanism of the different level of consciousness that we carry. So in this material platform, or on the material platform, there are predominantly three levels of consciousness that works. So most of us in the society are living within the pattern of these aspects, but there is something more than this which we are missing. And no doubt in this process we might be getting some sort of enjoyment as well. If we if we give food to our family members, we feel some sort of happiness. Or if we are celebrating some kind of function, some kind of get together with our relatives or friends, it do gives us some sort of happiness. It's not that it doesn't give some sort of happiness. Definitely it gives happiness, but we always have to remember a fact that this power will play its role. You will you will have some sort of enjoyment with your predominant material focus, but you will be entrapped into power work. This is what we are not conscious of. This is what is the missing link that people do not really think about. But it acts, it has to act. You cannot escape. It will act. It will definitely, fall back into your life. So this is the current focus of the society. I would say 99% of the people in society are focused within this dimension. And yes, definitely people are little God conscious as well. People do have certain understanding about God, uh, especially when we know that yes, we have taken birth in India, we do have some concept of God, but God is a least priority subject matter. We do not consider God as as one of the core aim of our life. This is one biggest disconnect, that we keep everything on the top priority, but when it comes to God as an agenda of life, then okay, we just say namaste when we look at the temple, or when we attend any kind of spiritual gathering, we just go for 5 minutes, and that's enough for us. Okay, next, nature of material world. Now we I am using this terminology, material world, and what is matter. And then I as I mentioned earlier, everything that we see within this world from our eyes falls within the definition of matter. So our body is also a matter. Ultimately, it is also made of 5 elements: Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash. So, in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna about the nature of this material world. He tells to Arjuna that this material world is Asat, Achit, and Niranand. Like if you talk about spiritual world, or anything which is spiritual, that is Sat, Chit, Ananda. That means full of eternity, full of bliss, and full of knowledge. But as soon as it comes down into this material world, uh, you know we become ignorant. We are not in bliss, Achit and Niranan, Asat, Achit, and Niranan. Ignorant uh, and temporary. We start looking at things which are just temporary in nature. So this is the comparison which is made in Bhagavad Gita when it comes to the nature of this material world, that this material world is nothing but a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Like you can see that the tree at the corner of river. The tree is nothing but a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So the tree is actually original, but the shadow of the tree, which we can see on the surface of the water, is a reflection. So most of the people are just focusing on the shadow, and because we all are busy in focusing on the shadow, we are unable to experience the reality. The experience is the tree, but because our focus has moved from tree to the shadow of the tree, we forgot the tree in that process. We are simply busy in focusing on the shadow of the tree. There are some people who just think, why is this happening to me? This is one section of the society. Or why is this happening to the world? This is one class of people. But there is another class of people uh, who will be thinking on a higher platform, that what it is trying to teach me. Whatever is happening, but what I can learn from it. This is more critical. Whatever is happening will keep on happening. at least we do not have that much power to change. But what we can learn from it is basically the need of hour, rather than thinking about why is it happening. So we can learn a lot from it. And people who are sincere in their quest for search for spirituality, they can definitely learn a lot. Okay, so moving further, so this is the nature of material world, and since we are doing everything within this world with material consciousness, we are basically forgetting the real aim of life. What can be the real aim of life? How we should really pursue it? If, like in the beginning, I mentioned that yes, Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned to the reporter that the real aim of life is, yes, we should always be happy, we should always be in bliss. But right now we do not experience that. Okay, by doing some material arrangements, we do get some temporary happiness, or some kind of temporary temporary fascination. So for example, I'll give you some examples how we get temporary fascination within this material world. So I am happy if I can fulfill, or if I can live with love of my life. My life is bliss. Or the sunset gives me immense pleasure. The book that I just read overnight, it really stimulated my mind. I just enjoyed a delicious meal. So these are the different options, or the different varieties within which people try to explore happiness. But ultimately it is not really, it is not happiness in the real sense, but it is just kind of relief of the pain. Like if someone is having some severe headache, and if headache is being relieved by taking some headache medicine, that doesn't mean that you have experienced happiness. It's just that you have got some relief from the pain in your head. And that's what is happening in the society today. What people think is happiness is not really happiness in the spiritual world. The definition of happiness from a spiritual perspective is altogether different. And for that, you have to raise your consciousness from the material consciousness to the spiritual consciousness. Now let us get into the spiritual world, or the spiritual side, which a need, what the essential need is of today's time from a spiritual perspective. Common sense of purpose. So this is something that I really liked. The whole society at the present moment is focused on progress, either progress at their own individual level or progress at the national level. When it comes to the government, they are just thinking about how the GDP can be increased. So this is just a pure progress, but it is not a not really a common sense of purpose. So we always need to make a demarcation between what is common sense of purpose, when we are collectively working for doing something good for the society on a higher platform, when our own selfish pursuits are parked aside. When we are doing anything for ourselves, then it is not spiritual in real terms. If our entire focus is how I can be benefited of it, obviously initially we may have that thought process or mentality that ultimately I want to be benefited from it. Initially having that mentality is fine, at least to begin with it. But ultimately that should not be the mentality of any serious spiritual seeker, then result of spiritual aspirations. So when we are like I was talking there, the result of material achievements, or whatever we want to pursue from a material perspective, ultimately we get stuck there in the power work, the pafa babama. But here, when we are focused on the spiritual aspects in our day-to-day life, then the whole focus gets shifted. We get free from power, and becoming free from power is one of the I would say it's one of the biggest achievement that one can have in life. If you can be free from power, your life is successful. That's what I can say. You achieve, you have achieved the aim of your life if you are free from this power. So it doesn't mean that we do not make efforts in this world. We do everything, but it's all about your consciousness. With what is your consciousness behind whatever you do in this world? Everything is evaluated by the level of your consciousness. We'll be coming to that part of consciousness, as I mentioned earlier, that there are three parts of consciousness which are predominantly covered within that material, the material aspirations that people have, or when people are aspiring for material achievements in their life. So we need to be free from power. And what will happen then? What would be the outcome? Ultimately, what we are trying to achieve from that process? How do we really evaluate ourselves? Are we falling into the category of the material aspirants, or we are falling into the category of a pure spiritual aspirants? This demarcation is necessary for us to enable us, for us to understand, so that we can accordingly prosper in that dimension. Are we really looking for the spiritual aspirations? There can be many people in the society who may not even have that spiritual aspirations. Let us see. Yes, so now there are two levels of consciousness. Three I covered earlier: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. Now two levels of consciousness are coming out, are not falling into the material dimensions. It is a part of the spiritual dimensions. So what are those two levels of consciousness? One is called as Vijnanamaya. Vijnana, again, it's quite simple terminology. Vijnana means practical, or you get to know about the fact that you are not this body, you are spirit soul. This is what even our Bhagavad-gita started with. In Bhagavad-gita, if we study, then in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna did not really begin with the fact that I am God, please worship me, Arjuna. He began with this this philosophical concept that, Arjuna, you are not the body, you are a spirit soul. All the people who are standing in this battlefield of Kurukshetra, they are not the body, they are spirit soul. So the first teaching which is actually coming from Bhagavad Gita is which is actually coming from Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is that he's trying to help us to understand that we are not the body, we are spirit soul. This is a big thing, and nobody is thinking about it in today's society. Everyone knows how to work best on the platform of body. Even the yoga exercises that people generally do, nobody is really thinking about the concept of soul. So yoga ultimately is meant for us to to awake our consciousness to the platform of soul, but nobody really performs yoga with that mentality or with that understanding even. So Vijnanamaya consciousness. So a spiritual focus is a focus when we come to a platform and we try and understand on a practical level that we are not this body, we are spirit soul, and we try to endeavor or we try to make efforts in our life in a manner that we ultimately start realizing this fact that ultimately this body is a lump of stool, flesh, blood, mucus, urine, that's it. And ultimately there is a soul within it, and there is a super soul within it. So this is something that we have to consciously work upon by raising our consciousness to a higher level. Now, it doesn't mean that we do not take care of our body. Uh, it is not prohibited, or it is not restricted that we should not take care of the body. Uh, Body is an essential necessity for functioning, or body is a vehicle through which you can realize this fact in itself, that you are not the body, you are spirit soul. So we cannot dismantle the need of the vehicle altogether. So health is also a necessity. Keeping good health is a necessity. But how do we use our body after keeping this body fit and fine is something that we need to really think about. Then the next level of consciousness, again, it is generally uh, not really easy for people to really conceive, what to speak of realize. Even to conceive this is a, again, highest level. So what it says, Anandamaya consciousness. Anandamaya, as you can see, and as the topic is of today, and from where we actually started, what is the aim of life? So the aim of life is we all want to be in bliss. When we all want to be in bliss, then we have to now, we understood up to Vijnanamaya that we are not this body, we are a spirit soul. Then we, on the next level, we also understand that this soul within our body has a relationship with super soul. And once we start reviving that relationship with super soul, once we start experiencing it in our day-to-day life, then we move to the level of a blissful life full of eternity and knowledge. Ultimately, that's what is needed. That's what we all are hankering for, and that's where I actually started with. So so what we are right now making hard effort for, and what we are actually getting out of that effort, is very, very insignificant in comparison to if we make a good spiritual effort. And by making good spiritual effort, what we can ultimately get out of that spiritual effort is way higher than what we are presently getting via making a simple material effort. So this is one big difference in in the consciousness of people who are aspiring for material objects in their life, and the consciousness of people who are aspiring for spiritual objects in their life. And now, if you do a comparative analysis of material versus spiritual, then spiritual is far better and far more relevant than material. Material can be used as a support system to awaken our spiritual need, or to awaken our spiritual strength. So we are not altogether rejecting the material component, but we are saying that you use that material component to the extent it is needed. The aim or the focus should be on the spiritual component. Material component can be used as a support system, but being completely dependent on material aspects in your life will not really lead you anywhere. So this is a crux that we have, that we have to make a conscious choice on what we really want to have as aim of life. Are we really looking for real blissful state of life, or we are just looking for some hanky panky material happiness which is full of struggle? So this Anandamaya consciousness, again, I'm just coming back to this topic. The Anandamaya consciousness in Bhagavad-gita, it is termed as Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta stage. Because in this Brahma Bhuta stage, what happens? You neither have a material hankering, and you not have anxiety. So you become free from hankering and anxiety in your life. This is the biggest achievement. If you can be free from hankering and anxiety in your life, I don't think so you really need anything else. So the spirituality can help you to, overcome that path of hankering and anxiety, and you can then make your life perfect. So I was reading, one article, and there one Scottish writer has, in the 19th century. His name is Alexander. He has given a wonderful remark on the concept of the essentials of happiness. So he has focused happiness on three levels: something to do in life, something to love for, and then something to hope for. These are three essentials of happiness, three ingredients of happiness. So something to do, we all have to do something. We cannot just sit ideal. Now I'm focusing on spiritual. Materially, people are in any case doing a lot of things, and they will continue to be doing those things. Now we are talking about spiritual things. So spiritual, something to do, service to Krishna. We have to learn the art of how we can serve God. This is the first aspect on something to do. The second aspect is something to love. Ultimately, we all are aiming for love, and the love is, if we can love Krishna, there is nothing better than that. And that is why it is said, prema pumartho mahan. So ultimate aim of every living entity, or at least we as human being, is to love God. So something to love is that we all want to love God. And once we start experiencing our relationship with God by rendering sincere service to Krishna, then we can eventually start developing our loving sentiments or feelings for God. Something to hope for. We all have to hope something, because right now the devotion even that we do, or the service that we do, or worship that we do, which is technically called as puja in our traditional Indian system, it is having contamination. It has some motivations. It goes on for some time, and then it stops. It doesn't move on continuously. So something to hope for. We hope for a pure, unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. We have contaminations within us, and once our contaminations will be removed, and then we will be able to experience that pure service. And then once we will start experiencing that pure devotional service, then we will eventually start experiencing bliss in our spiritual life. And once we start experiencing bliss, like there's a saying, once you start getting higher taste, you automatically start renouncing the lower taste of this world. For that, you have to get higher taste. Once we start experiencing the higher taste, which is the aim of everyone's life, then we eventually ourselves starts rejecting the lower taste from our life, because ultimately those lower taste becomes the source of bondage, the power which I was talking about. All right, so the practical aspects. I mean, I do not have much time to really cover it up, but in 5 minutes, I will quickly, take you through what it is. So, what we have to do practically? Practically, try to see and acknowledge God in everything. God is in every living entity within this world. God is everywhere. He is omnipotent. He is omnipresence. He's uh, he's in everything. The air which is blowing very, very, very fast today, he's there in that air. So when we drink water, this is an example of Bhagavad-gita, when Krishna is telling, when you drink water, I am the taste of that water. So this is how he is helping us to build our consciousness into Krishna consciousness by relating everything. He is telling, I am the talent. I am the talent of a talented person. I am, I am, I am the artist behind the art. Then we can see all energy of God. The sun and the moon, it is energy of God. It is not manufactured by scientists or any other human being within this world. So whenever we see sun or whenever we see moon, which exists throughout the day and night, we can always remember, ultimately it is an energy of God. Then third aspect is chanting. So by chanting, we are in direct contact with God, because chanting is one of the most powerful and effective mechanism by which we can remember God throughout the day, throughout night. But yes, that requires certain some training, because right now our brains or our mind is not so pure. But eventually, when we'll keep on doing chanting, we'll be able to gain that. Fourth is the association. Association can be via two mediums. One is via book. Book means you have Bhagavad-gita, you have other spiritual literatures, Mahabharata, Ramayana. You can refer those books. Through books you get association. Or the second option is association via person. Like I'm trying to present this message of Bhagavad-gita before you. This is another method of gaining association. So don't leave these options in your life. These are the most essential and important things in your life that you cannot leave, because as soon as you come out of this discussion which we are having, which we have from time to time, twice in a week or thrice in a week, as soon as you come out of this, you will realize that you are into a different world. So that is why the role of association is very, very important. Through this association, you get a regular food for thought, and when you get a regular food for thought, that keeps your consciousness on track on regular basis, and then eventually your consciousness starts dovetailing into Krishna consciousness. The last point: give some service, do some service, some practical service, some time. Give some of your time on daily basis in understanding God, either by reading or chanting. Then some talents. You may have some talents. I may not have those talents. You may have some talents. You may need to think and figure out how you can utilize those talents in the service of God. Some money, okay, is something probably people are a little afraid of, but yes, it's like if you can give some donation to run the services that devotees try to do. That's how you purify your money as a family member, or sorry, as grahastha. It is a responsibility of grahastha to donate some money so that their money gets purified. So these are some of the things that you can do from a practical perspective. These are the practical lessons of what we all discussed today. Concluding remarks, this is from Gita Mahatmya, which Shankaracharya has written. It is taken from Gita Mahatmya 7, some 2 lines of that. So it says, Eko mantrasya tasya namani yani. So here Shankaracharya is saying, let there be one mantra, one prayer, chanting of his name. He's giving conclusion. Let there be one activity. What is that one activity? Karmapya ekam tasya devasya seva. And let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is what is the need of our. And if we really do that, we can make our life successful. We can help in making others' life successful. And once we can do that, then nothing more remains to be achieved in this world.